Hello and welcome to part 6 of America's Assignment with Destiny. I'm Johnny the Savage, and let's get right into it. Many tribes, especially the Plains Indians, believe that thunder and lightning were caused by enormous birds. The rumbling sounds in the sky accompanying storms were due to the flapping of their wings, and the flashes of light were caused by the opening and closing of their eyes. In some groups, only one thunderbird was recognized. In other tribes, there were several of various colors or a family of them. The appearances of the bird or birds is not definitely given. It might be similar to a large hawk, an eagle, or even a grouse. The thunderbird could use its wings as a bow to shoot arrows, and small meteors were believed to be the heads of these arrows. On the plains, thunderstorms were said to be the result from a contest between a thunderbird and a huge rattlesnake or dragon-like monster. Persons struck by lightning, if they recovered, were accepted as sages or holy men, having received a very strong medicine from this experience. In some areas, the thunderbird was closely associated with the mysteries or societies. Those who saw this creature in their vigils usually considered themselves as intended for a religious life. The myths and legends of a thunderbird are similar to the European and Asiatic accounts of the fabled phoenix, which you're hearing an awful lot about it, even today. The phoenix nested in flames and symbolized initiation and adeptship, and today it symbolizes the New World Order, rising from the ashes of the old, death and rebirth, resurrection and reincarnation. All of these are symbols or symbolized by the phoenix. Early drawings of the Great Seal of the United States indicate that the bird represented thereon was a phoenix rather than an eagle that you see today. Like the Mexican coat of arms, which shows an eagle with a serpent in its claws, the American device is strongly reminiscent of a thunderbird. These creatures were also said to inhabit a sky world above the clouds, and served as messengers between mortals and the heavenly beings. Farther south, the thunderbird symbol merged with the quetzal, and the serpent feathered with the quetzal plumes. The quetzal was identical in meaning with the phoenix of Asia, North Africa, and the Near East. The feathered serpent symbolism can be traced back to the hooded nagas or serpent gods of India, and to the winged serpents which occur in the writings and sculptures of ancient Egyptians. The serpent was the messenger and servant of the Earth Mother because it dwelt below ground. For this reason, rattlesnakes were released during the snake dances in order that they might carry the petitions of the tribe to the Great Mother who dwelt below. Birds were also the carriers of tidings, and as they flew upwards, they bore with them the prayers to the Great Father who lived in the Sky Lodge. The thunderbird was the most powerful, and was the lord of flying things, and the feathered snake was symbolic of the mysteries of the upper and lower regions. Priestly orders served this twofold cult, the secrets of which were revealed only by an internal mystical experience. Now remember the ancient Egyptian religion? They had the mysteries of the upper and lower regions, and the priestly orders served this twofold cult, also the androgynous god. Princeton, describing various devices used by the Amerindian tribe to conserve their religious secrets, says, all these stratagems were intended to shroud with impenetrable secrecy the mysteries of the Brotherhood. With the same motive, the priests formed societies of different grades of illumination, only to be entered by those willing to undergo trying ordeals, whose secrets were not to be revealed until the severest, that were not to be revealed under the severest penalties. Now, anyone who's listened to our 26 episodes of the series on Mystery Babylon, the Mystery Schools, will recognize the exact same religious philosophy that permeated first the old Mediterranean world in northern Africa, and then through the episodes of the Crusades and the Templars was brought into Europe, and persists to this day all over the world. In case you hadn't noticed or didn't know, or hadn't watched the first episode, I have basically been using 3 episodes of Bill Cooper's Mystery Babylon series, which I encourage you deeply to check out. It's episodes 25, 26, and 27 that I've been doing. This is episode 27 right now, but I'm going to continue. The Algonquins had 3 such grades: Remember the 3 degrees of initiation, 3 degrees in 6 acts, or 18, 666? The 3 grades of the Algonkins were the Wabeno, the Meta, and the Josaki, the last, of course, being the highest. To this, no white man was ever admitted. All tribes appear to have been controlled by these secret societies. Remember, the heart and soul of the mysteries is illumination, the light, Lucifer. Lucifer is, of course, represented by the sun, which is the wisdom of the world. It represents the intellect. Remember the Garden of Eden, the story that Lucifer, through his agent Satan, enticed Eve and thus man to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of the knowledge. I was going to say the knowledge of good and evil, of the knowledge of good and evil, and told them that they would not surely die, and that they would be as gods. Well, this is the promise. And with that gift of intellect that man received from Satan, indirectly from Lucifer, man himself will become God. This is the heart and soul of the mystery schools. There were war associations, healing cults, and fraternities concerned with the religious mysteries, the keeping of the records, and the dramatization of the myths. There were ethical societies, orders of mirth makers, fire walkers, and hunters, presided over by elders who had distinguishing regalia. Women frequently became leaders of these groups. Among the Pueblo Indians, there were often a dozen or more societies in one village. While their objectives were not always parallel, there was no friction among the membership, and they united in all common responsibilities. The Indian was always a tolerant man on the subject of spiritual convictions. He never inquired as to the faith of his guest, but expected that every true believer would conduct himself in an honorable way. He respected the rights of strangers, and if he did not share in them or did not understand their meanings, he kept a respectful silence. Either the Western Hemisphere received a vital religious stimulus from early voyagers and travelers from distant parts, or else the Indian himself, by mystical experience, shared a common inspiration with the priestly castes of other nations. The psychologist would probably assume that the esoteric tradition originated in the spiritual needs of the human being, regardless of his race or place of habitation. But that does not fit any test of common sense. In fact, it's ludicrous. The search for reality gradually brought us into the specialized groups of intensive truth seekers, and these groups, produced by their own leader and such wise men and women, were acknowledged as divinely inspired, received spontaneous admiration and devotion, were obeyed for their superior endowments, and gradually became a priestly caste. Now, civilization enlarged the temporal state of the tribe. The religious societies grew to become powerful institutions as in Central America. While the tribes remained nomadic, the medicine men were less resplendent and impressive, but their functions were no less significant. These holy persons seldom took part in war, and frequently were distinguished by costume combining elements of male and female attire. And remember, the god is an androgynous god, bipolar, male, female, positive, negative, bad, good, divine, and evil, all within the same. And this is the truth. This is the reality in all of the mysteries. This practice of wearing male and female attire has become common throughout the religious world and has influenced the dress of pagan priests and Christian clergy alike. For example, the Catholic priest, the Catholic bishop. The androgynous human being, in whom there is a spiritual union of male and female attributes, has been widely accepted as personifying a superior type capable of greater understanding of the father wisdom and mother love potencies of divinity. Such symbolism, ladies and gentlemen, existed in all of the great esoteric orders of the past. While ethnologists may be reluctant to admit that the Indians had any formal concept of an esoteric religion, examination into the secret beliefs of the priests of the various tribes shows that they were verging towards the adept tradition, even if it had not matured among them. The Nidawin, or Great Medicine Society of the Ojibways, initiated both men and women into the secret of the art of healing and the control of the vital current coursing through the nerve centers of the human body. The Society of the Maids or Shamans had birch bark rolls which depicted the arrangements of the lodges and included many strange pictographs. Of these, W.J. Hoffman writes, "To persons acquainted with secret societies, a good comparison for the Middle charts would be what is called the trestle board of a Masonic order, which is printed and published and publicly exposed without exhibiting any secrets of the order. Yet it is not only significant, but useful to the esoteric and assistance to their memory as the details of the ceremony. The secrets of the Minoan were originally communicated to mankind by an initiate priest, Madhaboso, or Great Rabbit, who was a servant of the Good Spirit. I'm sure you guys remember the White Rabbit sticker and that supposed daycare center. The one that got scrubbed from everywhere on the internet simultaneously. I bet it's just a coincidence. It must be! The cross was an important symbol in the Minoan rites, and it is interesting that the Mides steadfastly refused to give up on their religion and can be converted to Christianity. The controversy as to the possible Masonic significance of the Minoan rites may be noted, but has slight bearing upon the essential facts. Although the birch bark rolls have bestowed prominence upon the activities of this society, other tribes practiced equally significant rituals and ceremonies. Candidates advanced through 4 degrees, traveling toward the east, and where have you heard that before, steady listeners? And the lodge rooms were enclosures open to the sky, and connecting with each other through doors and passageways so that they could look upon the celestial sphere. The neophyte was tested and subjected to trials and hazards and also was presented with a sequence of visual arrangements of symbols and other esoteric paraphernalia. The purpose of the Grand Medicine Society was to enlighten the human mind and soul, to bind the initiate to the service of the people. It included a method for stimulating extrasensory perceptions and personal investigation into the secrets of nature. In 1919, Arthur C. Parker was invited into a secret lodge of the Senecas to witness the ceremonies. Here he had heard the legend of Red Hand, a culture hero who could hold conversation with the Great Mystery. From the Great Mystery, he learned to love all the creatures of the earth, and he spoke the language of the birds and animals. Red Hand was slain by a poisoned arrow because he would not reveal to his assassin the secrets of his spiritual power. The animals, discovering by the power of the scent that their brother friend had been killed, gathered in council about his body to find the means of bringing him back to life. Each of the creatures gave part of himself to restore Red Hand to the living. At last, the bear came forward, and grasping the hand of the martyred hero, raised him by the strong grip of his paw. Those acquainted with the ritual of the 3rd degree of the Blue Lodge of Freemasonry will realize that this story must have originated among the rituals of the esoteric schools, because it is the exact same ceremony of the raising of the Master Mason at the end of the initiation of the 3rd degree by the grip of the lion's paw. Mr. Parker himself, a 32-degree Freemason, sums up the account of his experience in the rites of the Senecas thusly: little has been told. The door has only been held ajar in the slightest space, and no secrets have been revealed. There were feather wands and deerskins, but no purple robes or crowns. Yet who shall say that the Senecas have not the thread of the legend of Osiris, or that they have not an inherent Freemasonry? And indeed, who can say? In the area centering in what is now New York State, and extending north and south in considerable distance, the 5, later 6, nations comprising the Iroquois League attended a high state of social and political integrity. The 2 great leaders of these Americans were Deganawida and Hiawatha. It is impossible to study the life of Deganawida, whose coming was announced by a mysterious visitor from the heaven world, without realizing that he fulfilled all the requirements of the adept tradition. Deganawida was born of an immaculate conception. Let me say this again for you folks. Deganawida was born of an immaculate conception, possessed the power to work miracles, prayed and fasted, practiced the vigils, was confirmed in his mission by the Great Father, and passed through numerous trials and persecutions. Hiawatha became his first and most distinguished disciple, and these 2 working together sought to establish everlasting peace among their peoples. The founder of the Inca dynasty of Peru was the initiate statesman Manco Capac, who flourished in the 11th century AD. He reformed the social and religious lives of the tribes of the Aymara Quechua race. In the capital city of Cusco, which he built, Manco Capac established the religion of the sun. He was a statesman of ability and claimed to be a direct descendant of the sun god. The empire of the Incas, which he founded, is remembered especially for its experiments in socialized living. Peru has the distinction of having cradled the first successful utopia. And folks, I would argue with that. If it was so successful, where is it today? Manly P. Hall would agree with that, saying that for its time it was a successful utopia. Utopia means perfect, folks. It means the best. It means the fulfillment of all. The ideal, and could never pass away. If it was, in fact, a successful utopia. And that's the problem with these priests of the mystery religion and their dream of a world utopia made up of imperfect men. Ruled by imperfect men who have other agendas, who have selfishness, who covet, who steal, and lie. We all struggle with these things every day. Anyone who stands before me and tells me that they do not struggle with these imperfections of man and with the temptations of the material world and of the flesh, then I see before me a liar. Manco Capac emerges as one of the world's outstanding social reformers, with a vision thousands of years ahead of his time. He is said to have brought with him to Peru a divine bird and a sacred wicked bat hamper. This golden falcon is a form of the phoenix. It testifies to the presence of the adept doctrine. Manco Capac combines in his own person the offices of priest and king, like the Melchizedek of Christian mysticism. Christian mysticism? Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, you didn't know this, but Christianity started out as a secret society, and later even was named the Friendly Open Secret Society. It wasn't open at all. And it had degrees of initiation, which exist in the priesthood even today. Although some historians may be a trifle impulsive when they suggest that Manco Capac was a Buddhist priest, there can be no doubt that the Peruvian culture was heavily influenced by symbols, rituals, and philosophical elements usually associated with the trans-Himalayan area of Central Asia. Now, if Manco Capac was not a Buddhist priest from the Far East, how did he bring these teachings to the Indian people, who had never seen or heard of him before, and knew not from whence he came? In Dagan Huayra and his great league, Quetzalcoatl Colcolcan and his splendid socialized empires in Mexico and Central America, and Manco Capac and the communal system which he set up in Peru, we have three clear and definite accounts of initiates leading established schools of esoteric doctrines in the Western Hemisphere. From the consideration of their attainments and the systems which they inaugurated, we can come to but one conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. The mystery schools of antiquity were replaced in the Americas by institutions identical in principle and in purpose with those of Asia and the Mediterranean countries. How could this be? How indeed? Is it true that at one time, according to the theory of plate tectonics, that all the continents were together in one, and that there was free interchange and activity conducted between all of the people of the earth? Were they indeed at one time ruled by one great ruler in one great city? And was there at one time one great continent in the whole world known as Atlantis? And was the scattering of the peoples and the mixing of the languages and the tangling of the tongues described in the Bible, was this merely the breaking up of that one continent as the plate tectonics began to move away from each other? As the earth's crust shrank and molten magma compressed below began to push up and separate the piece of land from each other. Was this the scattering of the people? Was this the destruction of the Tower of Babel? Was this the real truth of what happened in history? It doesn't say that here. This is what has come to mind in my own research, and may account for many of the legends of all the people of the earth. We have much more studying to do, much more putting together the pieces of the puzzle, but folks, all of these studies that have ever been made, we believe that our conclusions are probably closer to the truth than anyone else has ever come. In any case, we hope we are, and if we're not, we certainly will pick up the thread, the truth, wherever it leads us. And if we turn out to be wrong, you will be the first to hear it. But it appears to us that at one time, all the peoples of the earth had a common source of religion and knowledge, and somehow these people were scattered all over the earth and lost their contact with each other and lost their contact with the source of their religion and their knowledge. And even though some of the portions of their society and some of their religions may differ slightly, at the heart and core of all of them, they are the same. And that is what is important. That you understand that somehow the great mystery religions and the great societies that existed in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia and Greece and eventually in Europe were nothing new to the peoples who lived in South America and North America and on the Asian continent. And the mysteries were even known to the Aboriginals in the continent of Australia, in the islands of New Guinea, in the rainforests of the Amazon. So you see, folks, what we are talking about here is not the story of one sacrificed king, but the story that existed among all peoples, in all areas of all the islands and continents and lands of the world. To all peoples, there appeared a man who taught the same teachings, who experienced the same persecutions, and ultimately the same death. The sacrificed king that we, in the Western world, have always known as Jesus Christ. Was it the same man who appeared to all people? Or were they different men sent by God who appeared to all peoples? Or were they merely men who pulled off in their different cultures and societies the greatest hoax in the world? I don't know the answer to these questions at all. What I believe in, Jesus Christ, I believe through faith alone. For indeed, no one has ever been able to even prove that the man really lived and walked upon the face of the earth in the Middle East. And I am speaking of the man we know as Jesus Christ, not all the other people who appeared to various cultures and various societies in the world, who fulfilled the same role to those people. And maybe that's why it was so difficult to convert some peoples to Christianity. Maybe they already were, in their own way, Christians.